God says that he delights in me, and that's why he rescues me, not because he tolerates me.
Yeah, that's right. Or he's like, well, I made this person. I guess I better, pat him on the head every once in a while.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Epic Everyday. I'm Liz Ferricks, and this is my husband Evan.
Greetings.
We're so glad that you're here with us today. And as you guys know, this week we are going through the CSCs, working on the basics of the basics.
That's right.
The CSCs, in case you don't remember, are being calm, surrendered, centered, connected, and complete. And since it's Thursday, we're going to work our way through connected and what it means to be connected, why it's important to be connected, and some
maybe
practical ways.
Yeah, how to do it even. So maybe that's a big mystery.
Maybe we should start with what is being connected. I mean, everybody kind of, I'm sure, has a general idea of what connection is, but at the same time, and there's different kinds of connections. And what we're talking about today is how we get connected to God and how we get connected to other people. I mean, I think it's so easy because our society is so insanely busy and insanely individualistic to not even see the need for it. Like you're just going from A to B to C to D through your day, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I haven't had a single conversation with someone that's outside of, business. What do we need to get done? Whether it's at work, whether it's at home with your family. I mean,
yeah, or you might think you're connected and you're really not. I guess that made me think of like maybe you have a really nice checkout person at the store, and you're like, we had a connection, and you really kind of, it was just polite, but there's something about that that's like, what?
It depends.
Yeah, but I was saying if someone's so starved for connection that is like the connection highlight of their day is that somebody was actually nice to them and did more than just say thank you for coming to, Jimmy Joe's or whatever.
Yes, I agree. I have a personal conviction that it's important to get to know the people in your area. So I always pick the same checkout people.
Yeah.
And so when I see them, they know who I am. When I walk in the door, they're like, hey, how's it going?
Yeah, well, you're doing what we're going to recommend, right? You're being connected.
So I'm just saying you can be connected to people that you only see every so often.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just the way you said it. It made it sound like that doesn't count if it's just the checkout person or whatever. Like,
no, if it's totally random, I don't know.
If it's a one-off kind of thing where you're like, oh, now I'm talking to this person. We have no prior connection, but it was really nice chatting, which can be the starting point for a connection, but it doesn't actually mean that you have a connection.
I agree.
It depends.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just trying to think of an example of maybe we are like, I think we're doing it, but we're not. But anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or another example of, missing a connection would be if I am known in this relationship, but I don't know them. Like, I'm known by them, but they're not known by me. Like it's a one-way relationship is not a true connection either, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, and I think that can be pretty prevalent.
Yeah.
So
something to watch out for. But so barriers to being connected. That's what we've got to get over to actually even try this, right?
Right. Well, I think trust is a big one, especially when you're talking about your relationship with God. I mean, it took me probably a good 10 years after I became a Christian before I was able to say, yeah, I trust God. Like, because I was so untrusting because of my childhood experiences that when I became a believer, I was like, I'm doing this because I was 14, almost 15 at the time. And I was like, I'm doing this because this is what I need to do with my life. But being able to say, yeah, I trust that God has my best interests at heart. Yeah, I trust that God loves me. Yeah, I trust that God likes me.
Sure.
Those were totally absent.
Yeah, I've talked to, and so, yeah, if that took you 10 years till you're 25 or so, like that could be early. I've talked to men who in their 30s and 40s are like just starting to realize that God's not the guy walking around heaven with the stick waiting to
Oh,
poke
yeah.
you if you sin, that he actually likes you, like you said. He's not just interested in punishment, he's interested in like relationship and blessing,
Right.
not just, drill sergeant guy.
Right. Well, I love in Psalm 18 where it says that he rescued me. He rescued me because he delighted in me. Like, that's my go-to verse when I'm like, does the Lord like me or not? And I'm like, wait a minute. What does he rescue
Yeah.
me from? Oh, I can think of, 20 things from last week. Like, a lot of them are, there's short-term things, there's long-term things, there's plenty of times, just even beyond, obviously, Jesus rescues us from our sin and brings us into relationship with God, rescues us from God's wrath. Like, we're rescued in that sense, but we're rescued from, like, oh, God took care of my bills. God took care of this situation with my kids. Like, there are all these different things that God rescues us from just day to day. So being able to look at that and be like, oh, right, God says that he delights in me, and that's why he rescues me, not because he tolerates me.
Yeah, that's right. Or he's like, well, I made this person, I guess I better, pat him on the head every once in a while.
Take care of them.
Yeah, it's not like that.
It makes me think of parents that are like, you're the one that wanted a pet. You have to take care of it,
Well,
And God's like, I made this person. It's my pet. Totally not how it is.
no, not at all. So that's the source of connection, isn't it? Like he's the one who originates it all. He's the one who desires it and is willing to pursue it, be the vulnerable
Right.
one, which is an amazing thing about the Christian faith is God's vulnerability.
Yeah.
You see that in Jesus's humanity, but I think we also see it throughout the Bible in the Old Testament. God's very patient, and yeah.
And he's emotional about us. Not in the sense of he's becoming a different person, but just he chooses to be emotional about us,
Yeah.
to long for people to come to him, like he says in Ezekiel 18, or, to delight in people, like we were just talking about with Psalm 18, or all those different emotions that we see. Loving the world. That's why Jesus came,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like that is kind of when you trust God and when you're connected with him, that's like putting a force field around your heart in a lot of ways. Like when you give God your heart, it allows you to be open and vulnerable in your human relationships because you aren't desperate for, I need approval. I need, whatever it is. I need rescuing. Like, I've had friendships where clearly the other person needed rescued. I've been in relationships where I was the one that needed rescued, you know?
Right.
So being able to say, nope, God's my rescuer. God's the one whose approval I need. All that sets us free to actually then be vulnerable with other people.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom there. I think we still have to get over this fear of being vulnerable. The results of being vulnerable could be varied, but they're still scary.
Yeah, I've been watching Brene Brown's TED Talks, and she's got one on vulnerability where she just talks about how it's amazing. Like, vulnerability is, the breeding ground for, like, shame and fear and, all these negative things, but it's also the breeding ground for creativity, innovation, joy, love. Like, when we shut ourselves off from vulnerability, we're shutting ourselves off of the good and the bad.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, yay, I'm not, if I'm not being vulnerable, I don't have to be afraid and I don't have to feel shame. But then the flip side of that is I don't get to feel joy. I don't get to feel love. I don't get to be creative. Like,
Yeah, because I think that's another example of God's wisdom is like upside down. The world's where, you're not fully expressing your humanity if you're not
Right.
being vulnerable. We're social people. We need community, and if
Yeah.
cut yourself off from that. I mean, you're still in your neighborhood physically, I guess, and you're still doing your job and seeing people and stuff. But if you're closed off on the inside and you're not if you're intentionally not connecting, that's kind of one of your major life forces.
Right. Yeah. And it's so sad because in connection can take energy from us when we're connected to the wrong people, but when we're connected to the right people, it is life-giving and energy-giving, and you see that in your relationship with God as well. And that's what changes us. I mean, there's that great, I don't know if it was a quote or a study or whatever, but where they were talking about, you stay the same person except for the people that you meet and the books that you read. So if you're not connecting with people and you're not reading books, you're just going to be the same person 20 years later.
Yeah.
Which is a terrifying thought. At least for
Should
me.
be. Yeah, sure. Yeah, we're not designed to be I mean, yeah, we're not designed to just stay in one place either. I mean,
right.
All the characters in the Bible that God dealt with changed. They went from one place to another. I mean, I just finished reading kind of for my just kind of devotional reading. I like to see the big picture of what's going on, and so the narrative books are a lot of fun for me to read. And I read David's life over the course of the last couple months, and there's a lot going on there. He had his big ups and big downs, and just kind of came finally to the end of his life, and he was kind of on his deathbed, and he hadn't even overtly named his successor, and that was becoming a problem. Like there's still things that God's working on him with right up until the end, and that's a good place to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that fear of vulnerability can be a huge part of our barriers to connection, but recognizing that vulnerability is actually life-giving, that the pros outweigh the cons, can really help.
Especially go ahead.
I was just going to say, help you actually take that step to be like, okay,
yeah,
I'm going to do it.
Especially if the cons equal shriveling up and dying on the inside.
Yeah, definitely.
And maybe an extra challenge. It was somewhere in that what's her name? Brene Brown talk. You shared that with me this week, and I thought it was really amazing.
It was a different one. But yeah,
I
shared that one. I shared one of hers with you.
Yeah, there's a couple of TED Talks. They're on YouTube. You can check them out. But she was talking about who's like from the outside, if you see somebody who's vulnerable, who's being vulnerable, like with, in their life, we may applaud that and call that bravery.
Right.
And it is.
Mm-hmm.
It is something to be applauded. But when we ourselves are thinking about it, it's
we're weakness.
Let somebody else do that. Yeah. Right. It feels like weakness, but
yeah, definitely.
It's not.
I hope that you guys have an amazing Thursday and, continue to work on being connected, that 1% improvement. And if that means stepping out and maybe being a little more vulnerable in one of your relationships, go for it. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you haven't gotten to the place where you can trust God and you can leave your heart with him and have it be protected, then that's a good place to start. Whether it's asking him to make you see how he's trustworthy. That was kind of where I started, just being like, Lord, I don't trust you. Flat out. I am telling you right now, I don't trust you. Here's why. Please change my heart.
But you were like, but I know I need you.
Right. Yeah, I was at I know I can't survive without you because that's the way you've designed the world to work, and it sucks. But I'm going to go along with it, and then gradually, God transformed that to be like, this is perfect. I love the way God made the world to work, and I know that he's trustworthy. So, and I have seen him do that in other people's lives. So if that's something you struggle with, he can definitely work that in your life as well.
Yeah. Explore that in your prayer life. Ask for something to change if you feel like it's not really where it needs to be.
Exactly.
And God loves to answer those prayers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to get a hold of us, you can always check out our Facebook group, or if you want to just find other people to be connected to who are passionate about connection.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can get us on Twitter. Evan's handle is @kindoflying.
And Liz's is eLizFrerix. Frerix is spelled Frerichs.
You probably don't have to spell it every time.
Yeah, you're probably right. Maybe eventually. Well, and it will be in the description too, I'm sure. We're still learning what we have to do there.
Well, we're praying for you guys. Have an awesome Thursday.
That's right. Talk to you soon.
Bye.